Good evening, and welcome to the June 2nd meeting of West Sacramento Planning Commission. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Moore, would you please lead us tonight? Tonight's agenda is available along the counter with the white request to speak cards. The request to speak cards should be completed and turned in to the clerk on my right prior to the completion of any staff presentation, and the clerk can assist you with filling it out. For those speakers who would like to speak on items not on the agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the commission, please write item A on your request to speak card. Otherwise, please specify the item that it was referenced in the agenda that you would like to speak on. All speakers will be limited to 3 minutes, and you can track your time. It's on.
Oh, okay.
Oops, mic's not working. Should I yell? Okay. So all speakers will be limited to 3 minutes, and you can track your time by looking at the clock on the right. Is it on now? Okay, good. Speaking in public may cause some individuals to feel uncomfortable, so everyone is asked to be professional and respectful to all the speakers. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and televised, so all speakers, in order to be recognized, must be called upon by the chair and come forward to the microphone. Please state your name for the record. And today, okay, I'll back it up a little bit. Today, we have 3 regular agenda action items for tonight's meeting. At this time now, we will take up presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda within the jurisdiction of the commission, and I do not have any request to speak cards for this item. Seeing none, I will move on to the correspondence and staff communication from the Planning Commission. Secretary, Mr. Tilley.
Yes, thank you, Chair Guerrero. Each commissioner should have a memo in front of them regarding agenda item number 5. This is the Reed Avenue Hotel project. We are requesting a continuance of this item to our next meeting. So when we get to the regular agenda, if the commission would perhaps could take that one up first if you were so inclined to grant the continuance.
Okay. Thank you. All right, next item is disclosure of ex parte communications. Are there any disclosures among the commissioners? No? All right, then. We have, the next item is our consent agenda, and we have consideration on and approval of the minutes from the May 5th and the May 19th commission meeting. We can take them up separately or together?
I believe we should take them up separately because of attendance issues.
Correct, okay.
I'll make a motion, if you'll entertain a motion, I'll make a motion for the approval of the May 5th minutes.
Okay, Commissioner Austin moves.
I'll second.
Commissioner Tumber seconds. All in favor signal by saying aye.
Do you
Aye.
want to,
Actually-
do you want a roll call?
We should
Does it
take a
matter?
roll call, actually, on that one.
Commissioner Kelter.
Abstain.
Commissioner Moore.
I abstain.
Commissioner Austin.
Yay, yes?
Commissioner Liebig.
Abstain.
Commissioner Sternfels.
Aye.
Commissioner Tumber.
Aye.
Commissioner Guerrero.
Aye.
Thank you.
Came down to the wire.
Okay, and now we'll take up the May 19th commission meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Okay, Commissioner Sternfeld moved.
Second.
Commissioner Kelter second, and we'll take a roll call vote again on this one.
Commissioner Tumber.
Yes.
Commissioner Sternfels.
Aye.
Commissioner Liebig.
Aye.
Commissioner Kelter.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Commissioner Austin.
Abstain?
Commissioner Guerrero.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. So we'll move on next to our regular agenda item. It's a public hearing. Oh, actually, we will take up we'll take up number 5. And I think, would you like a motion to move it to a future meeting date?
Yes, sir, to our June 16th meeting, please.
June 16th. Okay, I'll accept a motion to move this item to the June 16th.
Chair Guerrero, I make a motion to move item number 5 to continue it to a future date.
June 16th?
Specifically
Yeah,
June
yes,
16th.
please.
Thank you, Mr. Tilley.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Ostman moved and Commissioner Sternfeld second. All in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Any abstentions? Okay, motion is unanimously moved. And we have 2 items left on our agenda. We'll go back to number 3, public hearing regarding Argent Materials conditional use permit application at 600 Sutter Street. Ms. Allen.
Good evening, Chair Guerrero and members of the commission. This item is a public hearing for a conditional use permit for a concrete and asphalt recycling facility, which is proposed to be located at 600 Sutter Street. The project would allow for the intake, processing, and recycling of demolition materials. The project hours are proposed to be 7 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., up to 260 days per year, and night operations are proposed for up to 20 days per year. The project components include concrete crushing, material stockpiling, and infrastructure improvements to Sutter Street. The project is proposed to use a semi-portable crushing and screening plant, which is proposed to be located on the northern 6 acres of the site. The plant is proposed to process approximately 100,000 tons of material per year, up to a peak processing of 200 to 300 tons per hour at peak operations. The finished products are proposed to be stockpiled on the north portion of the site, and the remaining 9 acres are proposed to be reserved for future stockpiling. Besides the crushing equipment, the only other equipment on site would be a portable office trailer, scale house, portable truck scale, and portable restrooms. In terms of discussion points on this project, there have to do with improvements to Sutter Street, cultural resources, air quality, and noise. In terms of the excuse me, repairs to Sutter Street is in poor repair and has many potholes in it. This project would add approximately 56 one-way truck trips per day on the road. At one point in the staff report, it says 56 round trips, but it's actually one-way trips. Because of this, and in conjunction with discussions with the applicant, conditions of approval were drafted for the project where the applicant would be required to repair Sutter Street from West Capitol to their project site, which is approximately 1,800 feet of Sutter Street. The applicant would be bringing 24 feet of road up to emergency access standards of new developed and paved roadway. Facility operations would not be permitted at the site until the road has been repaired. The applicant, however, would be able to stage equipment and materials needed for the road repair on the site while the repairs are being done. In terms of air quality, it was one issue that was discussed in the initial study. We did have a comment back from the Air District regarding that, asking for clarification regarding some of the issues having to do with the equipment that was used on the site and the air standards that came from running that equipment. The consultants who helped the city prepare the initial study interfaced with representatives from the Air District and clarified some information in their modeling in regards to that. And we got clarification back from the Air District that they were satisfied that all issues with air will indeed meet the state's parameters. We also conducted an AB 52 consultation with the Yoshidehe Winton tribe in regards to potential cultural resources at the site. We had a meeting with representatives from Yoshidehe out at the site, and mitigation measures were crafted to their satisfaction that basically called out 2 areas where grading is going to be over 24 inches in depth, and there is mitigation that they will have monitors out for cultural resources purposes when those 2 portions of the project, which are the grading for the detention pond and the well, are done. The project is located near several businesses and 1 residence, and a noise study was done to evaluate potential noise issues. The average noise measurements are between about 60 and 70 decibels. The background noise from both the freeway, the railroad, and just the other industrial uses make the base noise in the area ranging between 70 and 90 decibels. It was calculated that the project for the 1 residence may raise the decibel level 1 decibel above the level as stated in the general plan. However, that 1 is within the level of error, so it was deemed to still be within compliance. That concludes my presentation on the project. We are recommending approval of the project subject to the conditions in the staff report and the mitigation measures in the mitigation monitoring plan. I'd be happy to answer questions. The applicants in attendance, as well as staff that prepared the initial study. So if you have questions for them, they are here as well. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Would the applicant like to provide a presentation at this time? Okay, please come on up. I'll open it up for the applicant to speak now.
Evening, Commissioners. Damian Galford with Enviromine. I'm here speaking on behalf of the project applicant, Argent Materials. From Argent Materials, we have Bill Crotinger here in attendance, and also the landowner, Jim is here as well. So I have a short slide presentation. I was here a couple weeks ago. Most of the commissioners were in attendance, but a few were not, so I'm just going to breeze through the project real quick and go over kind of the high points. Kathy did a good job of going over the project as well, but I'm just going to give you guys a brief overview of the project. So first slide, please. So this is a site plan. I don't know if you guys have this up on your monitors there, so you guys can probably see it a little better than I can. This, we have roughly 16-acre piece of property here, cut up into a couple parcels. Initially, our project is going to be occupying about 6 acres in the northeast corner of the property. That's where the majority of the activity will take place, crushing, stockpiling, processing materials will all take place there. The rest of the property, approximately 10 acres, will be used for future stockpiling and future expansion of the site if needed. But for right now, that 6-acre area is going to be fenced in with 6-foot tall chain link fence. We're going to build a perimeter road around the stockpiling area and develop the site with our portable office building, our portable scales, and also the groundwater well that we'll be installing. So that's kind of the basic layout of the project. Right now, this property has been used just for hay production. It's pretty much just a vacant piece of land within the city that's zoned heavy industrial. Next slide, please. This gives you a little better idea of where we're at. I don't know how many of you have gone over there and taken a look or are familiar with this piece of property. I know there's been several applications come before the commission in the past that to develop this property that have failed for various reasons. So on the west side, we've got Interstate 80. It's raised up roughly 100 feet, 80 to 100 feet from the property, so it's pretty far above. There are a couple of billboards on the eastern side of the property, and to the north, we've got the UP rail line, also RD 900 drainage ditch runs along that rail line as well. And then in the surrounding area, south and east side, we've got various industrial uses and a few scattered residential uses. I think there's one that's used as a residential dwelling. All others are have been converted to office buildings or some other type of use. Next slide. So one component of our project is improving Sutter Street. Kathy talked about that a little bit, and Sutter Street's in pretty bad shape right now. Potholes. The few of the tenants in the area, or a few of the landowners in the area, have made improvements on their own just to make the road passable. But right now, it doesn't meet emergency standards. So for us to come in with this application, we have to bring the road up to standards to meet emergency access. So the only solution we could come up with to get this project done in the near term was for the applicant to construct a roadbed that would meet the emergency access standards. So that's going to be 24-foot wide road up to a T10 standard. That way, when the road does get built to full development, that 24-foot wide area doesn't have to be dug up. It's already to traffic index 10 standard, which is the standard for this type of use in this area. So we're not building the entire road, curb and gutter. We're just building this 24-foot wide strip down the middle to provide emergency access for the property. Roughly 1,800 feet long, 24 feet wide, and we did some geotechnical drilling out there, and there's not a whole lot of subgrade right now, so we're looking at excavating down 18 to 24 inches, putting in that much road base, and then putting 4 to 6 inches of asphalt on top of that. So this project, just general cost, is probably going to be about $250,000 to the applicant. The thought is, once this project is approved and the road is built, that will spur some development in this area of the city, and we can get the landowners in the area to bond together and create some type of an assessment district to improve the overall services in this area, because it's fairly underserved with our water and also our transportation access. So the applicant is willing to go forward and build the road at this point, but with the expectation that when the assessment district does get developed, that they will either be credited for their fair share towards the assessment district for this project, or offset costs somehow for the assessment district. So that's kind of the discussion that we've gone forward. There's no assessment district that's been developed just yet. It's just an idea at this point, but that's the thought that we're moving forward with on the improvement of Sutter Street. Next slide. This is the applicant's operation in Oakland. They operate a very similar facility in Oakland. So this is their similar operation is what they're going to be proposing here in the city of West Sacramento. This is their site entrance. Got some stockpiles there and some trucks. Next slide. This is the crushing operation, portable crusher, general heavy equipment stockpiling. Next slide. Stockpiles, heavy equipment. And this is a portable scale and scale house, and these are the two structures that are going to be on site. Very similar. Next one. Overall, I went over this last time. Overall, the state of California, for the most part, is in an aggregate shortage. Department of Conservation tracks the supply and demand of aggregates in the state of California, and this is a map that they put out that breaks the state up into regions and tracks the 50-year demand. Next slide, please. Sacramento, we're looking at, we're looking at about 10 years of permitted aggregates in Sacramento. So this site is not a mine site. It doesn't produce native aggregates, but it does recycle aggregates that have already been mined and produces usable construction materials. So it does help to supplement the demand for aggregates. And this type of product will be used for road base, basic building materials, and it's gonna be a local source, for local projects. So the Public Works Department, local contractors can use this source, and we can have a local source for our aggregates. Next slide, and this is, just a Google Earth Street View, shot of Sutter Street. So, as you can see, it's in pretty bad shape. This project, looks to improve Sutter Street in the condition that it's in, for all the users in the area. And that's concludes my presentation. Any questions?
Are there any questions among the commissioners at this time? Commissioner Kelcher?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are you proposing to maintain the existing curb and sidewalk on one side?
Yes, maintain what is already there.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay. All right,
Thank
thank you. And just want to make sure there are no questions for staff among the commissioners. Commissioner Austin?
Well, I've got one question for staff. In the staff report, there was an indication of the hours of operation and the days of operation, but I didn't see that reflected in the conditions of approval. Is that in the conditions of approval?
Those hours are really incorporated by reference into the first condition, which is, what their project description is based on and what the environmental review was based on. We didn't line item those hours out, but we certainly could add those in there for clarity.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Sternfels?
Ms. Allen, you mentioned that the tribe went out and visited the site to talk about potential issues with grading. From the applicant's presentation, he mentioned that repairing the road will require grading of at least 24 inches, which sounds pretty similar to the grading that'll take place on the site. I'm wondering if there was any consultation with the tribe in regards to what would happen if upon replacing the road and grading underneath that road, if there's anything found, and what kind of impacts they may have to other businesses there.
The tribe was consulted about the grading of the road. They didn't indicate that they would have monitors present during the grading of the road because the depth was just below what they generally look at. However, there's standard conditions for all projects in California that if anything is unearthed, that all work must stop immediately, and representatives from the tribe will come out and evaluate what's found. If it's human remains, the coroners will get involved as well to try to determine if it's Native American in origin or something else. So that's how that's handled.
Thank you.
Any other questions before I open it up for public comment? Okay, I have one, I'll open it up for public comment. I have one request to speak. Diana Anzado. Why don't you come on up to the podium and provide your
Afternoon, members
presentation.
of the commission. My questions are mainly for Argent. And I represent Modern Building Systems. We're a modular manufacturer located at 605 Sutter Street. And we have some concerns regarding the roadways because it's our only way to get into work. I see that the proposed repair is 20 foot wide. And are there going to be any shoulders for big rig turns or anything of the sort?
Do you have any specific location for the turn that?
There is the turn out of our driveway. They're concerned about the shoulders because there are numerous trucking businesses, including us, that we drive along with modular homes.
I see.
We also lease out area behind our lot to truck drivers that need to maneuver. We were concerned about, okay, well, if there were going to be any shoulder areas done to protect the investment of of the repair. And we were also wanting to know who takes over future maintenance of their repair. If the city would take over the maintenance after they repair it and make it up to emergency access standard, who takes care of it after that?
Based on the presentation, an assessment district is going to be sought after, and working together with the business owners there to collaborate in maintaining future improvements. And just wanted to turn it over to Ms. Allen or Mr. Tilley to see if they can provide additional responses.
We have our principal civil engineer with us tonight, Mr. Collier. He
Okay.
can elaborate on the nature of the improvements.
Good evening. There are no additional shoulder improvements proposed. We've been careful to limit the obligation of the developer to mitigation of the impacts that he's creating, and that does limit it to 24 feet. You saw from the exhibit that there are some additional, there's a width of pavement out there, not in great shape, but
Right.
it does exceed the 24 feet, so.
Okay.
But as far as providing additional turning movements for other properties along the way, we didn't feel that was appropriate to burden this developer with that. The maintenance of the improvements that will be constructed will be the responsibility of the city.
The maintenance will be the responsibility of the city?
Right. And the
Okay.
assessment district, I think, will be formed to possibly fund the ultimate improvement of the roadway. Your typical local industrial road is 44 feet, face a curb to face a curb.
Okay.
And we're only doing 24 feet, so that would include the widening, curb and gutter, drainage, water line,
Okay.
and reimbursement for these folks for those costs that they've incurred above and beyond their fair share.
Okay. And it does, Ms. Anzaldo, does that answer your question?
It answers some of them, and I've got one last one. Will there be
You need to go to the
Can you go to the mic, that way everybody can hear? This is
Sorry
being
about that.
televised. Okay.
Will be any complete road closure during the week operating hours? We're concerned about staff being able to access, because there is no other way to get in to
Right,
where
there's that
we are.
just, okay, so road closure for repairing the road
During repairs, for those of us who have,
to continue operations, you can't.
yes,
you
our
need to avoid a
operations,
road closure.
yeah, I lease modulars, so I'm constantly sending out small buildings down Sutter Street to access the freeways.
Okay.
What will the schedule be like during business hours for repairs?
Okay. Mr. Tilley?
Maybe, perhaps at the conclusion of the public hearing, we can respond to all of the questions that we hear during the public comment period.
Okay.
And then
I think there is more detail that you can be given, and so maybe working it out with the city, so as that moves forward. Do you mind, and so if you don't mind working or having, if you don't mind staying or even trying to, I know we have another agenda item, and,
Well, that concludes mine.
oh, close the public hearing, okay. Okay, well, at this time, we're going to close the public hearing. I don't have any other requests to speak, and,
Chair,
then-
before we close the public hearing, I think some of us may have comments that may require the applicant to come back up and answer questions.
oh, sure, okay.
Can I ask a question of the last speaker?
I think Mr. Tilley was going to provide.
Yeah, that's, if we are if we have no other public comment, that would be something we'd ask Mark to also respond on how that would work,
Okay.
the improvements.
Would you come on up to provide some more information on the improvements?
Along with the improvement plans for the road there will be a traffic control plan that will allow for ingress and egress. There may be a flagger, but there will absolutely not be an entire road closure.
Okay.
This is a long dead-end road, and we understand that there's businesses and residences out there, and they need to have access, and that will be maintained.
Okay, good. Thank you for that clarification. I understand you have questions for the applicant at this time? No? Somebody have
I
a-
wanted to ask the speaker a question.
Oh, sure. Okay. We'll open it back up for public comment for the
that's
speaker to
really-
come back up. Ms. Alzado,
Is it Lozano?
Alzaldo?
In the microphone.
Anzaldo.
Anzaldo. So, Ms. Anzaldo, has your company had any discussion about whether if they're interested in financially participating in improvements around their site. Obviously, I don't have a dollar amount, and I'm pretty sure that the applicant may not either, but is that something that if, for example, 24 inches is going to be repaved, but you need an additional, X number of square feet, would your company be interested in, in an additional width of paving?
We would, just because we have existing driveways onto the
Right.
poor conditions of this road, and that picture was grand compared to how it is right now. And so yes, we would.
That's something that could be a dialogue that happens after this meeting, maybe, that,
Perhaps working it out with the city and
Or
looking at ways to contribute. I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah,
but
so it's,
I'd have to-
I don't know, but I'm just asking if that's something that your company may be interested in?
I could propose it.
Okay.
I could propose it. My corporate office is in Oregon, and they couldn't be here, so I'd have to propose it to them and then perhaps follow up in the next go around.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for coming out and speaking on behalf of the property owners in the area. So
Thank you for hearing us out.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you. Okay, I'll close the public comment at this time. No other questions? Okay. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, there's something that came up in the applicant's presentation that perplexed me. And so
Okay.
I'd like to ask for a little bit of clarification, if that's possible.
See if it's possible.
So in the workshop in which you presented last time, and then both in our staff report for tonight, one of the conditions of approval is the road improvement there on Sutter. And, I think that's been an agreement that's between the city and the applicant that's necessary in order to be able to deal with the truck traffic provided by the proposal. I was both perplexed and candidly concerned by your comment in tonight's presentation regarding your intentions to pursue kind of a fair share agreement should a business improvement district move forward in that area, because candidly, I think that's outside of the scope of what we're looking at tonight, but also because I think it would probably provide a significant impediment to a business improvement district moving forward in that area moving forward if you're asking for credit that's work that was already done prior to the district being formed, and also as a condition of approval for this project. So that's raised a huge red flag with me tonight, and I had no red flags until this point. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to respond to that, because
Sure.
I find it candidly a bit disingenuous to move forward with this project and say you're going to improve the road as a condition of your use of the road as part of the project, and then to come back and say, well, if a district's formed, we're going to ask for our fair share for that. So I think you either need to do the work or not, and moving forward, it needs to be included or not. And that's outside of our jurisdiction, I recognize that, but because you brought it up, I feel the need to address it and bring it forward now.
Okay, yeah, the road improvements is a condition of approval for the project. The assessment district is not. I know in the past, there's been some assessment districts that, they've tried to band together, but there just really hasn't been enough projects in the area. The landowners have been receptive to it. So the thought has always been the assessment district in this part of the city is really the only viable option to develop this corner of the city up to current standards. There just isn't the funding there. So Argent being the first one to stick their toe in the water and willing to improve the roadway and get the ball rolling, that's always been the discussion with city staff, that if there was happen to be an assessment district that was formed after this and things went along swimmingly, like the project applicant's hoping and the landowner, that the money that they put up for the road improvements would be part of their fair share for the assessment district. So it's not a condition of approval. It's just something that I felt was worth mentioning for the project, that if in fact there was an assessment district developed in the future, that there would be some discussion, amongst the landowners on what their fair share was, and the fact that Argent and Jim Coulter's group had already put up a decent amount of money, that would be credited towards the assessment district.
So clearly that's part of the negotiation with a business improvement district that may or may not be formed. That being said, if there's any hope for this area to get the infrastructure it needs. You said yourself, a business improvement district must be formed, because there's no other revenue source to do that. And so to come into that conversation saying that you've already done some work that the city required and won credit for it, is a challenging thing for me to swallow, because I think it starts off that playing field, which has already been a very difficult one to get moving, a difficult conversation to get moving. It already puts it in a bad place to begin with. It's outside of our purview. I completely recognize that as counselors looking at me, but.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, the assessment district is not part of the project.
Yeah,
The-
I understand that
That's all I
completely,
was
but.
going to say.
I
I just
would
wanted
like-
to make the point that it is not, the conversations that he's had with staff are in anticipation of potentially a future formation of an assessment district. It would be an assessment district, not a BID. BID is formed by the property owners getting together outside, largely outside of the city's involvement. But I think the important thing for the Planning Commission is that this discussion is not part of the conditions. The applicant is agreeing to build the 24-foot road, and if someday there's an assessment district, there can be a conversation at that point about whether.
Well, and I
some
think
reimbursement.
that's probably the point I'm trying to make, is that these improvements are being made because they're a condition of this project, which the city
Yes.
feels is necessary.
correct,
Not,
yes.
not for any other reason, and not for
Right, there's
consideration
no
for any future
underlying-
purpose or any future negotiations. So that is the point I'm asking for clarity on.
Yeah, the conditions of approval are very brief in this project, and there's no mention of an assessment district anywhere in the project. It's just been some discussions that we've had with city staff, just to get this project to this point where we can have a project to actually approve. Because without the emergency roadway access, we have no project. So this was the solution we came up with, and luckily through some negotiating, everybody was willing to move forward with it, with the 24-foot wide strip, and hopefully get the project approved and get some development spurred in this area of town.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Commissioner Moore?
Andrew, sit back, take a deep breath, here we go. I think it's a crying shame that this gentleman has to build the road. I think this is a city responsibility. This is a city road, they pay taxes for that road, and it's been an eyesore in this city for 20 years, and nobody's done one thing for it. That road's city responsibility. Can you imagine going to your house and having Mr. Tilley walk up and say, if you want to be able to drive to your house, I want you to pave Acorn Court so you can get in there? I wouldn't be very thrilled. These people have paid taxes. We have Measure J and K money that we've had set aside for our roads in our city. This is a city road that you've allowed to get in total disrepair. I think you guys should thank these people hand over fist. And you have a couple people that have businesses here, and I see Mr. Spurgeon there. You guys should be tickled to death. You can finally drive down the road and not get beat to death by these folks. But I mean, very honestly, I think we have a tremendous responsibility as a city to maintain our roadways. And we do on West Capitol, you do on Jefferson Boulevard, and this little side street has been neglected for years and years. And while I understand what you're saying, really and truly, I mean, if they're willing to put money up that the city should do themselves, I think they're doing us a great service. So with that being said, and thank God you guys are coming to town, because I think that's an industry we need, is to recycle those type of things. So that being said, I think we've done they're doing us a great service by trying to maintain something that we neglected. And, this is a very unique process, and I have to tell you that I'm sorry that I, along with most of the commission, half the commissioners missed the May meeting, so we didn't get to have this, or I would have had the same discussion. I hope very much that we have an assessment district that we could form with the landowners out there, because this is a very unique project. You're allowing a project to go in with no road, no water, no sewer. Other than that, it's pretty much ready to go, and that's why it's such a difficult area to get going in. And that's why I think we should try to do an assessment district. And I've had the luxury of talking to our staff about these same issues, that I think it's really a tough area out there. But the biggest area we have, or the biggest concern we should have out there, beyond the fact you have to do the road in order to get the trucks in and out to deliver the product. And Kathy, I have to tell you the truth, I don't think you can have one-way traffic. I don't think you can have 50 trips going one way. One's got to go in, it's got to come back out. There's no way to have it go one way. But it's a technical trucking thing there. So, you know, I'm really concerned that we're even asking the applicant to do this. I really think it's a city responsibility. I would like to see the city figure out if they could help the applicant with any of this project. I mean, he may have to build the road to get it going, but see if we could figure out what it would cost. And I think we've kind of talked that we don't really know what it's going to cost to do it, but get a rough idea. And then go out to those people and tell them, here's what we could do to improve it. Because I think most of them, it's a fit, in order to get an assessment district, they're normally, Jeff will tell me I'm wrong, but I think they're 15, 20 years, so you could pay it off over a long period of time. And they're just part of your tax bill. So, you know, I would like to see the city really make an effort to figure out what it would cost to make the improvement. And then we'll go out and knock on the doors and see what the applicants, like the trailer place, would say. You know, they'd probably like to have a road, because the picture I saw, I agree, that's the best part of the road that I've ever seen, because the rest of it beats you to death out there. So I think that's really an issue that everybody should really be aware of. That is just a city street like West Capitol Avenue or any other street you live on. And we didn't maintain it. It's shame on us for not taking care of it. But we may not have the money to do it, and I'm sure that we'll hear from the back of the audience, and he'll tell us why I'm wrong. But, you know, if we don't have the money right now, we don't. But maybe we could find some and then try to form the assessment district and help form this thing and get it done correctly out there. Then the whole area would take off. The other item I never saw on here, and I talked to Kathy a little bit about it, is I never saw any landscaping go into this project. And the reason I was saying that is I don't know that I'm looking to have lawns and fancy stuff, but when the train goes by and we built IKEA and Walmart and all those, we had them paint their building and act like that is as nice, the back of their building was as nice as the front of their building, so that people riding on the train would get a nice image of West Sacramento. Excuse me, I was thinking that we should have something, maybe a little berm with some plants on it or something that kind of distracts from just a bunch of piles of gravel out there. And I didn't see anything like that, and I didn't understand why we didn't have anything, unless it's not going to be a permanent facility. So with those comments, which I don't know what where we're going to hear from next, but I still think that the city does have that responsibility, and that's my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Moore. Would you like for the staff to provide feedback now, or should we wait till we gather all the comments from the commissioners and move forward?
Just wait.
Okay. Any other comments or questions to my right? No? And how about my left? Commissioner Liebig? Felter? No? Yes, Commissioner.
Sure, well, actually, I had very few comments, but I will have to say, I agree with Charlie. And I have driven down that in my little tiny car. Not for your project, it was for another one. And again, it was hard to request the applicant to make street improvements because it is a city street. So I commend them and thank them for taking the lead and making that initial investment. And I'm not sure what the city could do as far as taxes. I'm not going to get into that. Charlie brought up a good point. You know, I think we're balancing conditions here, and that is a very expensive investment just to get their project off the road, but you know how much I love trees. So I wouldn't be opposed to trees along, you know, the freeway frontage or the railway, but given the investment that they're having to make already, it's not something that I'm going to throw on top of it.
All right, no other comments or questions? All right. You can provide some feedback on what was presented to you.
Yeah, for a couple of things regarding the road improvements. last night, the council adopted the budget for the capital improvement program, and so I have sort of looking at through that staff report, and the road fund is really what's in question here. And the primary source of revenue for that is the gas tax. And according to this, the current fund balance is about $1 million to cover ongoing maintenance and a few minor projects, citywide. And the report goes on to say that that's not sufficient revenue to allow for any major road rehabilitation or maintenance projects. And so that's pretty much, what the situation is. There's no way to sugarcoat it. That's what's in that fund balance, and.
But that's not including major J&K money, right? Didn't we have money left from that?
Well, those are, other things that are allocated, through that. It's, looking at the report last night, Measure K, 800,000 available fund balance can allocated to capital projects. Again, this is citywide. So this is all, the timing of all this is very good because all this was laid out in front of the city council last night. Landscaping, this is an area where what we've been talking about the road a lot, but what this area also is very deficient in is utility infrastructure, particularly water. I don't know that there is water that could be sufficient for irrigation here. Part of why we're looking at a project like this nature is that it's a pretty minimal water usage, and then they're using the on-site, the well and the tanks for dust suppression. That's why we looked at several projects on this property over the years, and many of which just weren't going to work based on the utilities that are in the ground and along dead end. There's a lot of discussion about an assessment district. That's just a concept. We've talked about it in the past. Who knows if one will be formed at some point in time. Ultimately, the landowners are going to have to decide if that's something they'll do, and then what the bounds of what that assessment district would fund. We're up to a future discussion, should there ever be one. So I hope that answers at least the majority of the questions we received from the commission tonight.
Okay, Commissioner Moore?
Yeah, David, I don't mean to belabor the issue, but, would Mark be able to give us an idea of what they might think it would cost to fix that road?
We had a memo went to council on this at a few meetings back when this issue was raised at the podium, and the estimate to fully reconstruct the road was in the neighborhood of $2 million.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess the reason I asked that is if some of the landowners wanted to put something together, would we need to do a little more research into it? Not trying to get an exact number at this point, but to be able to tell the landowners what it would cost?
Well, yeah, you'd have to, delve into it more closely to figure out what the improvements would be and then what those costs would be. But that, thus far, what we've estimated is approximately $2 million. And
Okay.
this came out of the pavement inventory study that the Public Works did.
That's including sewer, water, the whole bit, huh?
I'm reading had the memo that went to council on that. It references primarily the road reconstruction. It's not clear if that would include any of the utility, work, which is also, substandard out there. So I guess we can say it's probably at least $2 million.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why you have Mark here. That's why I was asking the question. I don't even know if that's his department anymore.
Now,
He's
this,
shaking his head no, like,
Yeah,
don't
this-
talk to
the-
me. I don't want
yeah,
to
this would be a Public
think
Works
you're gonna
matter, but, certainly Mark still has expertise in this regard.
Yeah.
But this particular street, well as other ones have been considered as a part of a larger effort, and
Okay.
that was the estimate we have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I do appreciate the applicant coming forward. I think the landowner is also interested in having that property be used, and so it's also here if you wanted to provide any comments. I could open it up for public comment on, anything that's been said in support of moving forward, but it's up to you if you wanted to provide any comment. Okay, I'll open it up for public comment for the landowner to come up and provide some input.
Good evening. Jim Coulter. I represent the family partnership that owns the property, and I can say that we would be in favor of improving that street and the infrastructure and would participate in an assessment district immediately. Our feeling is that the way to make that area more viable is to get the proper infrastructure. If we don't, it's always going to be sort of low-end, heavy industrial, which is fine, but I think to even make that prosper, you need to have proper roads and proper utilities to the sites. So we would do just about anything to make this happen and contribute at least our fair share. We have had, over the years, in working with the city planning, we've had interest from some very interested and interesting applicants to put in things that would be very viable for the city and provide a lot of tax revenue. But we haven't been able to find anybody that's ready to sign on so that we could then borrow the money to put in the infrastructure that would be required to appeal to somebody. I think Federal Express, we've had interest from, I can't say the name right now, but a huge wholesale lumber operation. But they need to have something done fairly quickly, a year or 2 years, and we just haven't been able to get to first base. So I think this would be a great start, and hopefully with this development, it would maybe lead to more people wanting to come to the area. Maybe we could then set up an assessment district and get this thing going. So
Okay.
I guess to answer your question or make a statement, we will do anything, just about anything, to make this happen. And I agree that ultimately a fully improved street would be the best way to go. This is an improvement, and we hope that you give it your favorable consideration, but ultimately I think we have to really improve that infrastructure all the way from Sutter to the end of the street.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming up and speaking and showing that moving this forward, approving this would help us to move forward. It looks like a very good match.
Right.
Okay.
Because the alternative is for us to, grade and put some gravel down, fence some property and lease it out to people for storage or who knows what. But it's not a thing that's going to upgrade the area. It's just going to be really kind of a lower end type industrial use. And I think ultimately that could be a very viable area and could add a lot to the West Sacramento area and to your tax base.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, closing the public comment, and just want to make sure there are no other comments or questions among the commissioners.
Chair, if I could be very brief.
Sure, go ahead.
So I appreciate the dialogue from our commissioners and for all intents and purposes agree with the general premise that, city streets should be improved by the city. And we have several streets, not just Sutter Street in this area, that are in disrepair and need significant work. And but the reality is right now it is today what it is, and that's not going to change tomorrow. And so in looking at this project, I looked at it as a balance of trade-offs. As I'm sure the city did, and that's where this proposal came to have the road repair be included as a condition and what I'm comfortable with. That being said, I think we, as planning commissioners, we all come to this table in good faith that what the information being shared with us and what the applicant shares with us is what will actually happen, and that's what we make decisions on every day. And so the comments regarding around this, what we're doing here tonight being used as leverage for future discussion, it felt disingenuous to me. And so while I agree with all the comments both Commissioner Moore and Liebig said, I felt it necessary to bring that point up, and I agree the city should be taking care of these roads, and we have a huge transportation funding challenge that I think there's discussions and options on how we meet moving forward, but in the meantime, this road is what it is, and I too appreciate the willingness of both the applicant and the property owner to work on this project to move it forward. But in the same token, I want it to be because of this reason. And so that, maybe that's the moral hierarchy that I'm standing on right now, but it is what it is. And so I just want to clarify my point for my fellow commissioners and the public. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think this, the background that the applicant has provided on the purpose has been very good. I appreciate you representing again for all the fellow commissioners who missed the first time the presentation, and packaging together, a complicated, recommendation for the commissioners, and hearing all the, I drove down that road prior, to the last presentation, and saw how bad the road was, and saw a truck trying to come down, bumping along the road, and I just thought, I don't know how they do that every day and not get their axles broken. There's the big, deep potholes in there. And yes, I know there's a history that, the city needs to be involved in repairing the roads, but I think as the representative from the owner described, we need to bring more revenue to provide that kind of support for the city. And this is, I think, an opening for that opportunity. And I think it's a great opportunity for the city to move forward and appreciate that the applicant is willing to do that for us here. And all you're doing to front load and get this started. So with that, I don't know if there's any more discussion. I'll accept a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Madam Chair, I will move the recommended action.
Okay. Commissioner Bobby moves.
Second.
Commissioner Moore seconds. All in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions and noes? No? Okay, unanimously approved. Thank you very much.
Any interested party may appeal the decision of the Planning Commission in this matter to City Council by filing a written appeal with the city clerk within 15 days of tonight's action, and the appeal must be accompanied by the appropriate filing fee.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a public hearing regarding proposed modifications and time extension for tentative parcel map number 4919 located at 829 Elm Street. Miss Allen, again.
Good evening once again. This item is a request for minor modifications to the previously approved tentative parcel map along with a 2-year time extension. The project site is located on Elm Street, is approximately 0.885 acres in size, and the tentative map divides the lot into 4 single-family lots. The project is located in the R2 zone, and it's anticipated that the 3 newly created lots that would be vacant, one of the lots would have the existing house on it, would most likely be developed with single-family residences. The original parcel map was approved by the Planning Commission in June of 2007. Because of the legislative extensions, it's just now at the point where it's going to expire, which is why the applicant has also asked for the time extension to allow time to process the final map. And so that's why there's the 2-year time extension. The minor modification to the map adjusted the location of the road to lots 1 through 3. Originally, a small portion of it went over the access for the parcel on the other side. The applicant was not able to obtain a reciprocal access agreement to go over his neighbor's little corner of property, and so they reconfigured the road, and that's the modification to the map. That concludes my presentation. Happy to entertain questions. The applicant and his engineer are here if you have any questions for them.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Allen. Would the applicant provide any additional information or has a presentation? And if you could please state your name.
Good evening. Yes, I'm Jerry Ding. I'm here representing Mr. Tadish, the owner of the property. Not much in the way of information in part besides what has already been presented. the difficulty we had with the original application was the portions of Elm Street that is now part of this property have been abandoned. There was a portion that went due north from Elm Street to the railroad and was turned into a curve. The portion that went straight north has been abandoned. And the major concern and contention was that there was a major power pole at basically the location of where we wanted to put the road up through the middle of the property. And in order to miss the pole, the design had to encompass a radius that encroached on a couple 300 square feet of the abandonment of Elm Street for the property to the west. No one was willing to negotiate with us, so we had to go back and redesign the property, the roadway alignment, that and economical conditions that existed in 2007 and et cetera beyond that. So that's our justification at this point for the modification. Fortunately, we got here 3 days or 4 days before the expiration date of the application. So any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Otherwise, that's my presentation.
Are there any questions for the, Commissioner Liebig?
Either for the applicant or staff, but since you're there, Kathy mentioned the realignment for the access to parcels 1, 2, and 3, but my question was actually with parcel 4. It partially goes over lot 16. So to get to that, that back parcel, how are you getting access to
The
that
northerly
lot?
part, you're talking
Yeah,
about parcel 4?
The north, yes.
Actually, what's not shown on that plat that you have there that is colored, the westerly 25 feet of that, in addition to, is the half of Elm Street that belongs to parcel 4 now. So there's 25 feet of Elm Street that is abandoned and is now part of parcel 4.
Okay, so the entire access for parcel 4 is within that?
It could be within that, right. As it exists right now, the driveway that is used by parcel 4, in a legal consideration, probably could be considered to be by adverse possession, but there is adequate area in that 25-foot half street of Elm Street to provide the access we need.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Go ahead, Commissioner Liebig, are you done?
Yes.
Oh,
thank you.
okay, Commissioner Ross?
Yeah, thank you for bringing forward your application, Mr. Ding, and I'm looking forward to getting this property developed in our city. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you envision going here? I mean, I would like to have, a narrative. Pictures would have been great of, elevations, but what are you proposing to put here? Single-family homes?
Yeah,
Are they
it
gonna
will be pretty much, I'm sure it will be single-family, yeah. The lots are oversized as far as the 5,000 square foot zoning for it. So it makes a pretty decent lot for a decent-sized house. But I'm pretty sure it will be considered as single-family residences, yeah. 3 new houses.
Have you, of what you are, I don't know if your colleague wants to. Oh, yes, okay. I don't know if, do you want to introduce yourself and come up and respond? That'd be helpful. Oh, hold on a moment. I do want you to come up, but if you come to the mic, then people watching at home can hear what you're saying too.
Yeah, my name is Iskender Taddesa. I'm
Thank you.
the property owner. Back 2008, I was trying to develop it, but the financial situation, economic, then went down, so we had to hold on to it, But the proposed square footage for that area is between 18 to 21. It could be 1 story, 2 story. There's plenty of space. Ideally, actually, the property is actually zoned for RD10, but eventually I thought about building an apartment complex. It would be, but this one would be ideal for to fill the infill, so it would be people could actually, have a good residence in that area. Still live a rundown. If you go down that side, the property is run down. So I'm trying to put that, develop a little bit better with a gate, so there would be people to just, live in there, get income there.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very helpful narrative. Have you built homes or developed sites that are similar to this? And if so, can you tell me a little bit about them, where they're located, and when you developed them?
Well, originally, yes, I do develop properties. One, Visalia, I do, basically what I do is I buy lots and I develop the lots, you know. But this one is I hold it for a long time. And one of the things I think, what was your question? I'm sorry, what was your question
I
again?
wanted to know a little bit about your experience with something that's like a comparable product or type of development.
Yeah, I did, you know, basically I have the, like I say, over the last 20 years, I've been developing, not big scale, but 4 to 5 subdivisions. And I do single family, I buy lots and I develop the lots. I just completed 2, 3 lots at the Roseville, 3, 4 bedrooms. So I'll be building them myself. I'm also a licensed contractor. I'll do the improvement myself. I'll be, you know, trying to save, and I'm going to be doing the work myself on this project.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you, that's very helpful for my questions.
Thank you.
So staff, I think I might have mentioned this before, but I realize that this is a kind of a re-up, that we're kind of dusting off some old plans, but with the exception of Mr. Moore, I think we've had a complete planning commission turnover in the last 9 or 10 years. And so it's helpful that even if these are coming back, things that are helpful for me are just general developer experience. And if they don't have examples, I do like to get a sense of what they're intending to build there. So thank you, I'm pleased with your answer, but for kind of future reference, I think that's a helpful thing for me.
Okay. Any other questions among the commissioners at this
Well,
point?
you know, since you asked and
Since I asked, since I brought it up.
you know, it doesn't say anywhere in here that these are going to be single-family homes. And yet that's what's in the area. Can we put that in there? I mean, he said that's what he's going to build. Is it okay if we put that in there?
Well, the zoning on the property is R2, which would allow for single-family homes or limited multifamily, probably like a duplex, you know, type situation. So that is the zoning on the property. And going forward, they'd be able to do any uses on the property that are compliant with the R2 zoning.
Okay.
I do have a request to speak. If there are no other questions from the commissioners, I will open it up for public comment. And I have Bruce Shaw. You can come on up and.
All right, you guys, I'm Bruce Shaw. I've been a member of this community for more years than I can count. And all I have next door is Section 8. I've been attacked by pit bulls 3 times. Dog fights, they're real gruesome. Man, it's gruesome. And different tenants he's had in there. Now he says he's doing what he's going to do now. Okay, on the next street over, this wasn't addressed a long time ago. Absentee landlords buying up property in the city of West Sacramento don't live here anyway, rent it to all these dirtbags. And Citrus Street, right around the corner from me, hey, whenever the cops come in the neighborhood, where do they usually go? Citrus Street to have to keep things cleaned up. And I wonder what he says he's going to build. Am I going to get in our neighborhood there? Are we going to get more, instead of the federal government building the projects, he builds the projects, fills it full of Section 8 people. Our taxes, pay for Section 8 people, and his pockets kind of get lined. And this is the thing that I'm concerned with for the neighborhood, because it's not doing anything good for property values. Have somebody build stuff who doesn't live in our community and rents it out to a bunch of dirtbags. So, and then some, besides the dog fights, I have the task force, 25 of them in the yard there, looking for things a while back. They pulled the front door off the house, and all this stuff, the different people that he rents to. So, I'm all for if we're going to have single family dwelling, not a bunch of rentals. Or maybe a duplex where somebody, for example, if I build a duplex, I live in one half and I keep an eye on my tenant, that's cool. That's all right for the community. Good deal. But not, how do we know that he's just not going to rent these things out to more dirtbags, you people? There's no law that says, is there a law that says that he can't once he gets it redeveloped? You guys answer that question for me. Once he builds them, or he's just, you know, our neighborhood's gonna be inundated with, hey, West Sacramento's a good place, plenty of Section 8 room over, we guy rents to us all the time, man. Come over to West Sac. We got enough problems in West Sacramento, and we try to keep things, you know, make it a better place to live, make improvements, make positive things happen. I don't see this as being positive. So, you know, my question to you is, you know, are these is there a law that says if he develops this, they're gonna be sold, or he's just gonna hang on to what he's been doing and collect rent and bring a non-positive element to the community, actually? Ain't gonna bother him, he don't live here.
Mr. Shaw, if you can provide us with your final comments, your 3 minutes are up.
Okay, that's it. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Wait one moment. At this time, I don't have any other requests to speak, so I will close the public comment. And if the owner would like to come up and provide any responses.
If you're going to have a member of the public speak, including the applicant, you need to do that during the public
Oh, I need to do
hearing
it during the
process.
public. Okay, I'll open it back up in
But
the
that's fine,
public
you can
comment.
open it up again. Yep.
Okay, come back up, sorry.
No, actually, I know I've seen the gentleman a couple of times there, but he never approached me about the problem. But just to clarify, the single-family house is going to be built over there, it's going to be sold, so the actual owner will be living there. Yes, in the past, there was a renter issue, I'm not saying they're all perfect. One of the reasons that I'm doing this is to have ownership in that area, so it will improve the actual location. So when you build 2,000 square foot house, there's got to be, ownership's going to be going there.
Okay, thank you
So
very much.
that will be actually a good neighbor to you.
Thank you. No other questions among the commissioners before I close the public comment? No? Okay, I'll close the public comment and bring it back among commissioners for further discussion. Are there any questions to my right? No? To my left? Commissioner Liebig?
It's not, well, it could be a question for Jeff, but just to confirm, understanding that, you know, throughout the city, we're attempting to provide a variety of housing, including single-family, multifamily. Some are rental, some are for sale. In this case, these are single-family dwellings. We know that. We cannot put on a condition that these must be owner-occupied homes. That is not within our jurisdiction. So they may be homes for sale, but there is nothing that says they can't be rented out in the future. And that's just a part of life, is that there are homes for rent here and there are homes for sale. And our goal here is to make sure that our housing is balanced and reflects the community and the community members that live here. So thank you for confirming.
Okay,
That was it.
thank you. And no other comment or questions among the commissioners? Okay. I do have a couple of comments and appreciate that the owner and the representative also came up and provided some feedback. I think there is concern, and if you wanted to have further discussion outside to raise those concerns, they're not built yet, just to follow up. I hate to see you having, the neighbor, experience, some difficulty while living in his own home and, with the tenants there. Because I think there's genuine concern for improving the area and, just ensuring that it's crime-free. Although I do appreciate having inclusionary housing and for families who cannot afford to live in areas that are more expensive. So with that, I support Commissioner Liebig's comments. At this time now, I will accept a motion to move the recommended action by the staff.
I move to approve.
Commissioner Austin moves.
A second?
Commissioner Tumbert seconds. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, this unanimously approved.
Any interested party may appeal the decision of the Planning Commission in this matter to the City Council by filing a written appeal with the city clerk within 10 days of tonight's action, and the appeal must be accompanied by the appropriate filing fee.
Okay, now, thank you. We have, next item on our agenda is informal discussion. Is there any informal discussion among the commissioners? Okay. And is adjournment, Commissioner Moore? Would you like to
Thank you,
carry the
Madam
adjournment?
Chairman. Tonight, I'd like to just take one moment, because last night, the father of our city, Bill Christoff, announced that he was not going to run for reelection this year, and we all know him. I looked downstairs and saw his name's on there. He was mayor of our city when this thing was finally dedicated. So in honor of Billy, I'd like to adjourn our meeting tonight.
Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.